Hi there everyone, hope you're all safe and well, enjoying yourself. So in this video I'd like to talk about something that's very important in this country, more so in recent times, but it's been around as an issue for as long as anyone can remember, and that is immigration. Now we're all hearing the stories of workers or people crossing into the country legally and illegally, and immigration is a huge spectrum of, well, people crossing really. We all naturally cross from one country to another country for whatever reason. We've done that for centuries, haven't we? Either it's for trade, business, to work, and so forth. And immigration does have a good side and a bad side. It's how do you regulate it, which is very important. The types of people coming in and the types of people who are coming in and shouldn't come in. Now, as long as I can think of, since the rent rush period, which is like the mid-50s, late 50s, I think it was, we as a country in the UK needed all the workers that we can get, and so many people were either looking for a better life, offering their services, and achieved so much. I mean, since after the war, we needed bus drivers, we needed plumbers, engineers, and so forth, because our country was in a dire situation. Pre that, we had like even women during the war, which actually helped work the fields, work the land, bus drivers, train drivers, all that stuff. And again, fantastic. I am fully into like equal opportunities, and I totally get that. And immigration has a very important part to play, especially when you do have a skill set, you're coming into the country and you want to create a better life for yourself. Naturally, that's fine, that is okay. But you want to contribute into the country as well. You want to pay your taxes, you want to work, you want to live in this country, and that's fantastic, that is amazing. But it also has like a dark side as well, because in over the years you even hear about people crossing into the country illegally without documentation, or just exploiting the situation, or being exploited if they're crossing into the country and they're the ones exploited themselves. That's a horrible situation. That's a really difficult, nasty, especially when you're talking about people trafficking and coming into the country. And why? It is just monstrous how that trade is going. But immigration does have good and bad points. The more you contribute into the country, fantastic, you do absolutely amazing with, like, we need more vets, we need more doctors, lawyers, engineers, and so forth. And during the days of pre-Brexit, we had so many people working in the fields, like from Poland, from like Eastern Europe, and they're doing a fantastic, or they did a fantastic job. And we were, the vast majority of the British public was very accommodating, very welcoming. A few on the far right were anti on that sort of thing, but they were a small minority. Post-Brexit though, when we're talking about illegal immigration has been around for, well, years, even during the EU period. People crossing into the borders illegally has been around for ages as well. And when they're coming into the country and using false claims of asylum seeking, when they don't even come from a war-torn country, just looking for a better life but doing absolutely nothing, except exploiting and milking the system, and crossing over into so many other countries like Italy, which is a safe country, France, which is marginally a safe country, Germany is a safe country, and you just keep crossing over those borders to get into the UK. It makes you ask the question, why? If these are the countries which are very good to live in, why are you not living there? Why come straight into the UK? And a lot of people, when we hear this in the media, maybe it is something wrong with our welfare states. as in people are just claiming benefits for the sake of claiming benefits. So when you're crossing into the border illegally, into the UK illegally in like small boats and so forth, you get like, some news channels would say you get like £40 benefit per week, free accommodation in any of our hotels, including the 5-star hotels around London, including like the Savoy maybe, or the Ritz and places like that. You've got like free healthcare paid by the British taxpayer. You've also get free gym membership, free tennis lessons, free education when it comes to speaking different languages such as Spanish, French and so forth, which is a bit bizarre considering you coming into the UK. And it's also with crime. When people think about illegal immigration, they think of crime, and crime in the UK has gone up quite shockingly. With the statistics, they can be altered depending on which media channel. It's like coming into the country illegally. Some news channels will say it's only a few thousand per month. Other news channels will say it's at least 500,000 per month, which is a huge over-exaggeration, but some people actually believe that sort of thing. Also, another statistic when it comes to crime, especially from the socialist sides, they claim that 80% of all UK crimes being recorded, 80% of them are caused by white British men. Only white British men. 80% of them committing crimes which is being recorded. And where's that statistic come from? Because that just seems nonsense. You also have the issue of people segregating themselves deliberately setting themselves up into ghettos and places which the average person would just feel unsafe to enter. There's places around London, Birmingham, Manchester, all the big cities, which feel so unlike the UK anymore. It really does feel very unsafe, and you feel vulnerable to walk into those areas. Especially if women, for example, if you've just been on a night out somewhere and you've got to cross through Stratford to get to your home. I mean, as long as you're in a large group of women, say like 5 women to go through Stratford, then you're fine. But anything less than that is really, really dangerous. You feel vulnerable, don't you? You feel unprotected. And it's like, how do you control, how have we got into this situation? And how do you control borders, considering your front door has now disappeared? So you come into the country illegally, you've not been documented or anything like that. How do you stop people coming in and just exploiting the system and claiming the benefits? People even now have no respect for the Royal Navy, our once proud Navy, the largest in the world at one point for over 200 years. It's now the 5th largest navy, but the critics, especially on UK reform and the far right, even talk on social media, on YouTube. There's a channel called Talk. They even think the Royal Navy is now the most woke navy in the world. Our navy is the most woke navy in the world. That's what they're claiming. And that's a shocker when you get to that stage. And then you've got people crossing in illegally for even people trafficked into the UK. And again, that is a horrible situation. But when they come into this country, what do you do? What do you do? Has anyone been deported, out of the country? Even though you come in illegally, on your own free will, for example, you come into this country claiming benefits, not contributed into the state or anything like that, committed a crime, and you will not be deported. I'm sorry, any other country you would have. But here in the UK, you don't. And it just baffles the mind of so many voters and things. Even during the days of when we had those bendy buses in London, so many people were grouped together and they were segregating themselves, and most of the people in the back were fare dodging. You think of how much revenue you've lost for London transport. It's horrendous. But when you contribute into the British society, that's great, that's fantastic. If you want to come into this country, contribute into British society for a better life, and you work, you pay your taxes, fantastic, go for it. Go for it. I've got no issues of immigration at all, so long as it's done legally. But when you're crossing into the country illegally, and you're the one that's crossing the country illegally, and it's you're deliberately doing it, then you're taking the mick. And that's where it needs to stop, because there's so many people being exploited, and it's horrendous when that happens. It really does. So how do we control our borders? How do we protect our citizens? How do we protect this nation, from this wave of influx of unjustification? And when you hear like hotels being set up for illegal immigrants and not being deported but coming into our hotels, in years, I can imagine like for 2030, you're going to have so many illegal immigrants probably crossing into Scotland, Edinburgh, Glasgow, and places like that. Wales may potentially have a situation of that. Or God forbid, the Cotswolds. Can you imagine if there was like a immigration hotel for illegal migrants in the Cotswolds? Nobody would stand for that. Surely not. But immigration does have a good point. It does have its good values as well. So long as you're contributing into British society, so long as you're paying your taxes, so long as you're kind, caring and helpful, because we need all the workers we can get. I mean, we need people to take care of our elderly. We need people to work the lands and work the fields. And during the days of Brexit, pre-Brexit, during the EU period, we had that. We absolutely had it. Of people coming into our country and, from Eastern Europe. And they're lovely. They're fantastic, lovely people. Just happy to work there, happy to do the things that no English person would like to do. But they're happy to do it. And it's lovely when that happened. I mean, they were taking money back to their home countries and developing things like their homes, catering for their family. And it does happen. And fair enough. But when you're coming into the country illegally and you're being exploited by criminal gangs, but when you're coming to the country illegally and you're committing crimes yourself, and you're claiming benefits and choosing not to contribute into British society, how is that fair? How is that acceptable? And it just beggars belief how we've got into this situation. And what is the best way to tackling this issue of immigration? How do we control our borders? Because now you got two sides now, which is like your far right and your far left. Their voices are getting louder and louder. It's ridiculous. Even people on the far left, the hardcore socialist lots, are even thinking about giving accommodation to aid and accommodation to terrorist organisations, because they're like Hamas, for example. And you're like, why? This is a government who is anti-women's rights, anti-LGBT rights. But because they represent Palestine, we should be giving aid to them, even though they treat their own citizens like garbage, which they do horribly. Hamas are. But yet, socialists don't want to think of that. They just want to kick off the people that they don't like out of the UK and replace it with the people that they do want, which is monstrous. So if you want to come into this country, if you want to contribute and pay your taxes and help in any way possible into British society, go for it. Because even us Brits, if we need to go to Australia or Canada or any other country outside of the EU or even in the EU, we've got to have skills. We've got to have a trade to get into those countries, do we not? Into Australia and so forth, you've got to have a green card. And there's so many English people now feel so threatened that they can't live here. It's kind of ironic. They want to move to what once was the largest prison in the British Empire, Australia. And Australia's a lovely country now. It really is a fantastic country. It really is. I've never been, but I would like to go. But you've got to have a green card to get there. But for other people to come into this country undocumented, illegally, and committing crimes in the UK, which is horrendous because we're dealing with assaults, sexual assaults, and all that stuff, it's gone up. It's gone shooting up in percentage, and yet somehow socialists even claim that 80% of all white men committed more crimes in this country. 80% of them are white men only. And that's a shocking statistic because I've got no idea where that statistic comes from. But something needs to be done. Immigration and multiculturalism, is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? There's always a good side and there's always a bad side to it. And I'd like to hear your comments down below. Please don't hesitate to speak your minds and your thoughts. And hope to catch up with you another time. Take care, all the best, bye.